Good morning, boys and girls. Pastor Angela here, and I am so happy to be back with you again this week. I hope you've had a wonderful week, and I really wanted to thank you guys for sending me some pictures of the challenge I gave you last week, which was to think about your gifts and talents or things that make you unique and how you could use them for God. So I enjoyed looking at them. Now, this week, we are going to talk about a really cool miracle that God performed. But the main point I want you to get from this is that a good friend prays for others, and also that God is there for us in difficult times. I mean, God is always there for us, but especially in difficult times. So I want you to picture this scenario. Imagine that you're out racing bikes with a friend, and you're going from one end of the street to the other. But pretty soon you realize, when you're going as fast as you can, that you can't hear your friend anywhere near you. So you stop and turn around, and you look far back, and your friend has actually fallen off their bike. Now quickly you ride as fast as you can to get to them. And when you get there, you see that your friend has not only fallen and hurt, but he's actually been knocked out by the fall, and he's bleeding from his arm. So you panic a little bit because it's quite scary and you're not sure what to do. You're thinking of how you can help this friend, and you decide, okay, I can tie my belt around their arm to stop the bleeding. But that's about all you can do. And so you think really fast, what can I do next to help them? And you decide to ride your bike as fast as you can to his parents' house. And as you're knocking on the door, panicked, nobody's answering. So you try the doorknob and you decide to go in because the house is unlocked. And you grab the phone and you call 911. And by the time you get back to where your friend is, the ambulance is already there helping your friend. Now your friend ends up being totally okay. But the reason they're okay is because you were a good friend. You did what you could to help them, and when there was nothing else you could do, you went to a higher power to get the help that they needed. You tried their parents, and then you tried 911, and they were able to help your friend to get well. Now, in our lives, we're going to face some difficult things. Whether you're a Christian or not, there are hard things that happen in our life. And when we're Christians, we can ask God to help us with those things. And sometimes your friends are going to go through difficult things too. And you'll do what you can to help them. And you should do what you can to help them. But ultimately, when you've run out of options, the most important place to go is to God and ask God to help your friend in any difficult situation. Now, today we are going to dive into a Bible story that just shows this point so beautifully. So I want you to get your Action Bibles. You're going to go to page 681. And if you don't have an Action Bible, you're going to go to Acts 12, mainly verses 1 through 19. But go ahead and read the whole chapter. It's awesome. What's that, camera guy? Oh, there's someone outside for me? Okay, guys, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'll be right back. I have apparently friends here, okay? I'll be right back. Oh, hi. Hi, boys and girls. It's so nice to be with you. My name is Rhoda. I was just looking for Pastor Angela, but I really wanted to tell you guys this really cool story that happened. So basically what happened was, and I have to kind of go back a little bit, where we live, there's this really evil king. His name was Herod. And even though he was a Jew, he really, really, really hated Christians. And he really hated them so much that he actually killed one of our friends named James because he didn't want people talking about Jesus. And it was really sad. Anyway, so we have this really good friend named Peter. He's one of the apostles. He does a lot of preaching and telling other people about Jesus. And one day, Herod decided that he was going to arrest Peter. And we knew Peter was in big, big caca, like really big caca. We were really afraid for him. And Herod had heard before that Peter had escaped from prison, like miraculously. And so he wanted to make sure that wouldn't happen again. So what happened was he had Peter chained up, like his hands and feet, and chained actually to guards. Like the chains were attached between Peter and the guards. That's how much he was so serious. And so Like, we're his friends. There's a bunch of us other believers that are friends of his. And there was like literally nothing we could do to help him but pray. And we knew that God always hears our prayers. We knew that that was something a good friend would do. And so we gathered together in a house and we just started praying. We prayed that God would set Peter free. We prayed that God would protect Peter, that Peter wouldn't die. We were just praying and praying and praying. And all of a sudden, we hear a knock at the door. And I actually went to answer the door. And when I looked out, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was Peter. And I ran back in the house and I was telling everybody, guys, Peter's outside. Peter's standing outside. And they didn't believe me. They even thought maybe it was an angel. I mean, we believe God could do it, but we kind of thought maybe he'd, if Peter went to court, maybe the judge would set Peter free, or we kind of had an idea of how God might answer that prayer, but it certainly wasn't that Peter would be standing outside our house in the middle of the night. So it was so funny because I was so excited, I actually forgot to let Peter in, and this whole time he's just standing outside knocking on the door. So I run back and I let him in, and all of our friends, all of the believers were rejoicing and praising God and giving him the glory because he sent an angel to walk Peter right out of that prison, to drop the chains off his hands, to walk him past the guards so he was like invisible to them, and to be set free. God can do anything. This was such a difficult situation, and we just knew the only thing as his friends that we could do was to ask God to help, and so we did. Anyways, I hope you enjoy that story. I keep missing Pastor Angela, so I'm just going to excuse myself and go back and see if I could find her. But nice to be with you. Take care. God bless. So it was my friend Rhoda, and she told me she actually came in and told you guys the story from the Bible, which is great because she was there. I mean, she was one of the people who was praying for Peter. So it was a pretty amazing story. Peter was in such deep trouble, as Rhoda told you, that they couldn't actually do anything else for him. And so they turned to God and just prayed, believing that God would answer their prayers. And when he did, it wasn't the way they expected him to answer, which is why they were so surprised that Peter was standing right outside. But it's a really cool example of how a good friend always prays for their friends when they're in a time of need. And I really want to challenge you guys to do that. There's this Bible verse in Galatians 6:2. It says, share each other's burdens, and in this way obey the law of Christ. God wants us to share burdens with our friends. When they're struggling or we're struggling, it's important that we ask God to help them and that we help them in any way we can. Now, I remember a time when I was a little girl. There was a boy that we went to church with who got really sick with cancer. The doctors actually had done all the treatments they could. They tried to help him in every way they could with medicine, and they couldn't help him anymore. He was too sick. And so they sent him home to spend Christmas at home, and they expected he would die over Christmas, which was really sad. And so as his Christian friends and brothers and sisters in Christ, our whole church family prayed and prayed and prayed for this little boy for a miraculous healing. And you know what? The boy survived through Christmas. And after Christmas, his doctor called him back in because they really didn't expect him to still be alive. And when they ran all their tests, they couldn't find any more cancer in his body. God had healed him. Now, sometimes your friends are going to need help that you can give them. Maybe you have a friend who's really struggling with their homework and you can offer them some help. Or maybe you have a friend who is going through a hard time. Maybe their family doesn't have a lot of food, so you pack an extra lunch for them. Or maybe you have a friend whose parents are going through a divorce and they just need someone to talk to because it's really hard. And that's great, and you can do that. A good friend does that. But sometimes the issues are things that you are not able to take care of for them or you're not able to help them with. And that's when you need to remember, God is always there for us. He's always there for us in our times of need. And you can turn to God and pray for your friends, believing that God will answer your prayers. Maybe the answer won't be what you were thinking it would be, but God's answers are always better than the plans that we have, which is so cool. Now, this week, I've got a challenge for you, just like I did last week. This week, I would love to see a picture or to have you write a story about a way that you have helped someone this week. Okay? It could be helping someone with their chores. It could be doing something nice for someone. It could be cheering someone up or listening to someone if they're going through a hard time. Maybe it is praying for someone, but please sit down this week, draw a picture about it or write a story about it. Make sure that you are intentional about helping someone out this week. And send me a picture. I'll have my email address at the bottom of the screen. I would love to see a picture of a way that you've been a good friend to someone this week. Guys, I love you. I'm praying for you. And thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I can't wait to be with you again next week. God bless you. Take care.